to the Cut Block Podcast, where we cut through the noise and keep it real. Just because a cut block is legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like Cory Hogue's takes. Now, here's your host, Cory Hogue.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome to the Cut Block Podcast. This week, we're cutting through the noise and getting real about the success of Tarleton's football program. Then we're going to head into the Gridiron Briefing Room, where I'll be joined by the head coach of the only 5-0 college football team at any level. That's right, Todd Whitten joins me to discuss the Texans and the secrets behind their program's success. And of course, close things out with the weekend more map. It's my personal viewing schedule for the weekend. My name is Cory Hogue, proprietor of CoryHogueSports.substack.com, CoryHogue Sports. You can find me on social media at Cory Hogue Sports, all one word, CoryHogue Sports on your favorite platform. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and review the podcast wherever you listen. It really does make a difference, and you can find every episode on our homepage, thecutblock.podbean.com. And as always, I want to say a big thank you for all of your support. Time to head into the trenches. And sometimes in college football, the scoreboard isn't the only place where the gap between programs show up. Saturday night, Chattanooga learned the lesson the hard way against Tarleton State. The Mocs hung around early, even took a 14-10 lead, but in the end, the Texans rolled 52-24. After the game, though, UTC head coach Rusty Wright gave some blunt post-game comments that have since gotten national attention. He said Tarleton was the best FCS team Chattanooga has played since James Madison in 2019. That's high praise. But it was another line that caught everyone's ear. That's $700,000 we're playing tonight against my $35,000. Wright said, Chattanooga, if you're listening, if you want something like this, you better open up the pocketbook. That's the only way you're going to keep good players. Now, look, I understand where Wright is coming from. NIL is the biggest talking point in college football right now. And yes, it plays a role in recruiting and retention. But I think it's unfair to boil Tarleton's success down to just money. Tarleton isn't an FBS program with a multi-million-dollar NIL collective. They don't have Alabama's or the Texas war chest. What they have done is build continuity in the transfer portal era, which is so hard to do. Year after year, they've managed to keep the core of their roster intact, while other programs are losing double-digit transfers every offseason. It's not just about money. It's about culture, relationships, about trust between players and coaches. When you look at the numbers, Tarleton has had stability at quarterback, stability at linebacker, stability across the roster in many ways that FCS programs simply have not. NIL dollars may help around the margins, but the real story is that Todd Whitten and his staff have created a program players want to stay in, and that's no small thing in 2025. So while I respect Coach Wright's honesty, I also think it takes away from the work Tarleton has put in to build and sustain this program. Because if the only reason Tarleton is winning is a checkbook, then what does that say about the coaching, about the buy-in, about the culture that's been built? To me, Tarleton's rise is the result of two things. Yes, some NIL support, but more importantly, a staff that has figured out how to keep its locker room together when so many others are falling apart. That's the difference between a flash in the pan and a true contender. And right now, Tarleton is proving week after week that they belong in that national contender conversation. That's the reality for programs like Chattanooga, too. NIL matters, but so does investing in the people who can build that kind of culture. Because as we saw Saturday night, money might buy you players, but it doesn't buy you continuity. And Tarleton has both. The Cut Block Podcast is listener supported. And if you have the means, I'd be honored to have you as a paying subscriber over at CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Paid subscribers get every story delivered right to their inbox. Annual subscribers get 6 months free. And founding members, I like to call them all-stars, they receive early access to all non-breaking news posts, plus my undying love and gratitude. It's time to head into the Gridiron Briefing Room. I'm joined this week by Todd Whitten, the head coach of the only 5-0 team in college football, the Tarleton Texans. Coach, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, you bet. And listen, it's been fun watching the Texans. And as you've said often when we talk, that winning is hard. And the most difficult thing to do is to win consistently. It requires tremendous focus, self-discipline to be your best every day. What's been the key to the consistency and to have that kind of focus that your team has displayed this year?
Well, we have, we've taken really good care of the ball, knock on wood. And that's always huge. We have more depth now than we've ever had. Coming out of Division II, we had no depth, and over the 4 or 5 years, we've been able to get to that point where, especially across the offensive and defensive lines, and so I think that's probably the most consistent thing there. We have a senior quarterback, and all of those things put together sort of equal consistency, I think.
It's been tremendous to watch. Now, you may have heard some of the post-game comments from Chattanooga head coach Rusty Wright on his radio broadcast that was reported by the Chattanooga Times Free Press. One thing he said, and he called Tarleton the best FCS team they've faced since James Madison in 2019, which is high praise. And me personally, I think it's the best Tarleton team I've seen since 2018. But we know what happened to that. We're not going to talk about what happened to that team, though, right?
Oh, that was a rough day.
That was. But Coach Wright had one quote in particular. It caught national attention. He said, quote, "That's $700,000 we're playing tonight against my $35,000. Chattanooga, if you're listening, if you want something like this, you better open up the pocketbook. That's the only way you're going to keep players." I'm certainly not going to ask you to share specifics about NIL dollars or the accuracy of the number, but I feel it's unfair to suggest that the only reason you've kept your roster intact is because of NIL. I mean, since this transfer portal era began, you and your staff have consistently retained the majority of your players, had fewer enter the portal than any other team in Texas non-FBS. I'm sure NIL's helped. It plays a role, but I want to give you an opportunity to kind of explain what's gone into keeping your roster together during this new era of college football.
Yeah. Now, see, this is really our first year to have we got a substantial raise in the NIL category this year. Not 700,000, but he's high on his guess there. But last year's team, 10-4, we had 4 kids on an NIL check, 4. A receiver and a running back and 2 on defense. And so this year's team has about 40. Mostly, really small amounts, but nevertheless. But so we've had our third-year quarterback, Victor Gabalis, last spring was the first time he got an NIL check. And and it wasn't huge. It was a nice check for him. But we have used the NIL dollars that we've been able to raise. We've used those to keep our roster together as much as we can. And so, but this is really our first year to enjoy kind of a full allotment, if you will, of what I think would probably be a good FCS NIL package. And so, it certainly does help. But the when we transitioned from Division II to FCS, most of the guys we were signing were one-offer guys. They were unrecruited. We couldn't go to the playoffs. We were set to play more road games than we were at home. And so most of our squad was relatively unrecruited. And so there really were not a lot of places probably for them to go. We have a very good program, and we really pour into our kids, and we have good relationships with them, and all of those things that help build a good culture. I think we do very well, but it was kind of a time of transition, and everybody was anxious and excited about our new journey, and so I think that also naturally, the kids wanted to stay and be a part of that, and we were mostly doing pretty well. We had some tough days, but mostly we were winning games, and so the thing when we finally went 8-3 2 years ago, I felt like that sort of got us over the hump, and we won some big games, and then first year of eligibility to go to the playoffs, we were able to qualify for that as well. So kind of really all the successes that we were having really, I think, were the main reasons that we kept everybody. And now moving forward, we're gonna work really hard to have an NIL fund and to raise money, and our administration makes a really nice commitment to us as well. And so, but I still don't know that it's always going to be difficult, and you're going to lose some once in a while. But we've had a pretty good batting average with that.
You have it, and look, it takes, like you said, administration, fans, booster. It takes everyone, but that culture piece, I really would like for you to dive in on that a little bit, because you've said to me multiple times, these kids are lie detectors. They're natural lie detectors, and I think that explains more the culture that you've built with that program than anything else.
Yeah, we get to know these guys, and they know about us. They know about Coach Whitten and all of my issues and what my journey's been like. And so we really pour into them, and I think they trust us. And we're not perfect by any stretch, but we work really hard to have real relationships with these guys, and they get to know our families and our children and our grandchildren and whatever the case may be. And we do have a good culture. So our backup quarterback is a senior, Daniel Greek. And I've asked myself several times, why is he still here? Why would he have not gone and found a place to be the starting quarterback, which he could easily do?
Yes.
And his answer is, this is family, Coach. This is where I want to be, and I want to play ball with you guys. And so hardly anybody has two senior quarterbacks, but that's a culture thing right there. And so, yeah, I'm just really proud of our guys. They have a real appetite for hard work and playing football. And so, so far, so good.
Well, and the culture piece, the family atmosphere, it extends beyond the program. It goes university-wide. It's apparent as soon as you step on campus. You feel welcomed. You feel like family when you step in on that campus there. It really is incredible. I want to hit on, you mentioned Victor Gabales, the senior quarterback, 3-year starter. He's completing 62% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions, knock on wood. How have you seen him grow and kind of shape this offense in the last 3 years?
Well, so he started out at Washington State as a walk-on, and he played as a freshman, and I think he started the bowl game, the Sun Bowl.
Wow.
And the coaching staff fell apart there at Washington State. That was right during the middle of the COVID. And his quarterback coach went to Utah Tech, and he took Vic with him. And Vic had a good freshman year there. And then that same coach left after 1 year at Utah Tech and went to Texas State. And so Vic was kind of left out there alone again, and he jumped in the portal late. And so the last day or two of the portal being open. And so we immediately offered him, and And so he agreed to come, I think almost over the phone. So a little bit of luck on that one. But Vic's just been outstanding. And so when we got him, that was the third offense in 3 years. And so, but he did pretty well. We went 8-3.
Yeah.
Too many turnovers. He had 11 intercepts. Second year to start, which was last year, another 11. Now that's over 14 games, but still too many. And so just really pleased with the way that he has gotten rid of those. Now, there will be some. There hasn't been yet, but there will be. If you play quarterback, you're going to have a few of those. And so, but he's just really making good decisions and taking care of the football, and that's huge for winning games.
It is, and I'm talking with Tarleton head coach Todd Whitten. We've talked about offense. Everybody loves the offense, but I think one of the most impressive things about this team, and where I really compare it to one of the best teams I've seen at Tarleton ever, is that defense. You're holding FCS opponents to 9 points a game. You have forced 17 turnovers. What's fueling that dominance on that side of the ball?
Well, we have really good leadership and Coach Ty Nix, and he's a many-year veteran defensive coordinator at the FBS level, and so just does an outstanding job. We've got a lot of guys that can run. We have good team speed over there, and I think we've got a good defensive coaching staff. They get our guys lined up and coached up, and so and then just some good football players that have good speed and can move their feet, and football's a game of speed. And so we get pressure on the quarterback. Whenever you're able to get pressure on the quarterback, he's not going to throw the ball as well, and that creates turnovers as well. So a lot of things like that, I think, factor in, not any one thing. But I would say mostly we've got pretty good players over there.
Well, you do. You have a tremendous linebacking core, but the defensive line works to get them free from blocks so that they can make those tackles, and all that pressure helps your secondary. It all works together. It's been fun to watch. I want to ask you, coming into the season, Kayvon Britton, we know, he was the running back. He was outstanding. But Trey Page III has stepped in, and I don't think it's a surprise to anyone on the coaching staff that this young man is excelling as a starting running back. Yeah,
he's a talented young man, and was a really good high school player. He's a little bit undersized, but has just been outstanding for us. Really hit some big plays for us. It's hard to have a good offense without big plays. Yeah. Big plays are like turnovers. They're one of the critical factors that determine the outcome of a game. And so, but really proud of Trey. He's just going to get better and better.
He certainly will. Last question. We got to talk about the United Athletic Conference, because this conference is brutal. It is stacked. I heard someone texted me yesterday, said they think the conference might be a 4-bid league this year. I think that's probably a bit high, but 3 is certainly possible. How do you see the conference stacking up nationally, and how are you going to prepare for this race that you're getting ready to go into for the next few weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough. It was a year ago. 3 of us got in a year ago, and I think we have a great league and a lot of evenness. And I would say I would make the statement that there are no upsets probably in our league. Anybody can be beaten on any Saturday. You got to play well every Saturday to give yourself a chance. And if you don't, you're probably going to get beat. So I just look back to last year, our conference champ was Abilene Christian, and somewhere in the middle of the league, North Alabama beat them. And so that's just not uncommon. And so Utah Tech beat Central Arkansas a year ago. Eastern Kentucky beat us before that. We were the start of their 5-game run. So, yeah, I don't think there's upsets. There's a lot of parity.
There really is. And the transitioning team, West Georgia, they're ranked in the top 25. It's incredible. It really is. Well, Coach, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining me. It has been fun watching you guys. I know preseason we talked about that hard travel to go from Portland to West Point, but you guys navigated that beautifully. And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of this season, and hopefully we can get you back on. If things keep working out well, hopefully they do, and you stay healthy, we can get you back on when it comes playoff time.
You bet. You holler at me anytime. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Stay connected with me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and more. Just search at Cory Hogue Sports, CoryHogue Sports, and you can reach me directly by email at coryhoguesports@gmail.com. It's time for the weekend warm map. It's your guide through the battles that matter the most across Texas non-FBS football. Let's lock in on some key matchups that I will be tracking closely this Saturday. And all games are Saturday, September the 27th. And we begin in Division III, where East Texas Baptist travels to play Texas Lutheran. Starts at 0 hour, 1300, 1 o'clock for normal people on Flow College. East Texas Baptist is rolling again with another perfect start. Texas Lutheran, on the other hand, just grabbed its first win in dramatic fashion against Southwestern. Freshman quarterback Reese Dietrich is growing into the role, and Weston Guzman's big day on the ground gave the Bulldogs hope, especially with Caden Basanko's injury early in the season. But the defense in Seguin has struggled, and ETBU brings an explosive offense despite showing cracks last week. The key is simple. Whichever team controls the ground game and converts in the red zone will set the tone heading into conference play. At 1400, we head over to Abilene, Texas, where the McMurray Warhawks meet Howard Payne Yellow Jackets on Flow College is where that will be broadcast. Howard Payne suffered its first loss under head coach Kobe Gibson, a 21-18 setback at home against NAIA Wayland Baptist last week. The Yellow Jackets, though, they seek to remain undefeated against D3 teams heading into American Southwest Conference play next week. The Warhawks have had their share of bad luck in 2025. McMurray sits 0-3 with all three losses by one score, including a 24-19 loss at crosstown rival and nationally top 10 Hardin-Simmons, and an absolutely brutal 52-46 loss at Huntingdon last week when they threw a pick six that was returned roughly 97 yards on the final play of the game. The Warhawks need something positive before beginning SCAC action in 2 weeks. At 1500, 3 o'clock for normal people, we're heading on to Corsicana, where Blinn is meeting Navarro. That's going to be broadcast on TSBN Sports. And at the JUCO level, Navarro shook off a rough opener and absolutely dismantled Kilgore last week, putting up 53 points. Blinn, meanwhile, is undefeated, but the road gets steep with Navarro, Trinity Valley, and Tyler lined up in that order for the Buccaneers. The winner of this game positions itself as a true contender in the Southwest Junior College Football Conference. The loser still has life, but the climb gets a lot harder. Expect this one to be a physical slugfest in Corsicana. Same time, more JUCO ball, 1500. Again, broadcast TSBN Sports. Kilgore is traveling to meet Cisco, and the Wranglers opened the season with a solid win over Coffeyville before falling on the road to Trinity Valley last week in their conference opener. Kilgore is struggling right now. No two ways around it. After opening with an easy win over Community Christian, everyone does, the Rangers have dropped games at New Mexico Military Institute and Navarro. The Rangers need to right the ship this week in all three phases. The offense has scored 32 points against SWJCFC foes. The defense gave up 53 last week, and special teams has been a disaster on multiple occasions. The Wranglers need to jump on Kilgore early, though, to keep a dangerous Rangers team, they're still talented, from gaining confidence. Then we head into the nighttime slate, and boy, what a slate we have for you. Starting at 1800, we head into San Antonio. ESPN Plus is where you will find Abilene Christian at Incarnate Word, and these are two programs that have swapped expectations. UIW came into the year with championship dreams. but instead they've stumbled out of the gate. At 1-3, the Cardinals already turned to redshirt freshman quarterback E.J. Colson. He's mobile enough to make plays, but behind that shaky offensive line, every snap feels like an adventure. Meanwhile, Abilene Christian was supposed to be rebuilding after losing key pieces to the transfer portal. Instead, the Wildcats look like the steadier hand. Quarterback Stone Earl has been sharp in Graham Harrell's system. 71% completion percentage, 6 passing touchdowns, 4 more with his legs. The Wildcats handled business against FCS foes. And it has a couple losses to FBS competition, but not the way a lot of FCS loses to FBS. The big story here is going to be turnovers, though. Incarnate Word is near the bottom nationally at -7, while ACU sits top 10 at +4. When you pair that with UIW's struggles to run the ball, the advantage leans towards the Wildcats. A month ago, I'd have given UIW the nod. Today, ACU looks like the team in control. This is a big one, 1800 hours on ESPN Plus as well. Southland Conference action kicks off for UT Rio Grande Valley. The best story in college football hits the road to play Southeastern Louisiana in Hammond at Strawberry Stadium. This is when the new kids finally are going to get a true test. Look, UTRGV couldn't have scripted a better debut season. 4-0 to start their program. But let's be honest. The schedule's been a bit light. A couple NAIA squads, a struggling Division II team that's given up over 60 to every opponent they've played, and Prairie View A&M. This week, the Vaqueros face the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana, and that is a different beast. Frank Selfo's group has been sharpened by fire with 2 FBS losses and 2 decisive FCS wins. They were tabbed as a top 3 team in the Southland for a reason. Strawberry Stadium is not an easy place to walk into. UTRGV has been a feel-good story, and they're ahead of schedule, no doubt. But the real measuring stick will start now. 5 of their next 6 opponents have been ranked or receiving votes in FCS polls. The next month will tell us whether the Vaqueros are contenders or still in that foundation stage. Boy, another big one here at 1800, 6 o'clock. It is the State Fair Classic, the 100th edition of the State Fair Classic. This one featuring Grambling and Prairie View A&M, and you're going to be able to watch that one on SWAC TV. It's the pageantry of Dallas, the State Fair, and the Cotton Bowl. That's going to set the stage for the State Fair Classic. Prairie View has owned this rivalry lately, winning 6 of the last 7, including last year, an unforgettable 5-overtime thriller. PVAMU steadied itself with a win over Northwestern last week. Grambling enters at 3-1. They survived East Texas A&M in a nail-biter last Saturday. This is Grambling's first SWAC contest. And Prairie View is starting a brutal stretch with Alcorn and Southern still ahead over the next 3 weeks. Turnovers are even with these teams, so this one could come down to late-game execution and special teams. Exactly the kind of drama this rivalry deserves. And finally, how can you head into any game, any other game, but this one this week? McNeese at Stephen F. Austin. We're closing in Nacogdoches. Last year, McNeese delivered a heartbreak to SFA with a Hail Mary before halftime and a game-winning drive at the end. You don't forget losses like that. The Jacks certainly did not throughout the offseason. SFA showed some life last week, knocking off Cal Poly to get back on track. But this program has bigger ambitions, and those hinge on the next 3 weeks. This game against McNeese, then they have UIW and Nichols. The Cowboys are 1-3, but don't be fooled by that. They've played 2 FBS teams and narrowly lost to Weber State. Matt Viator's squad, as he returns back to Lake Charles, has a ground game that can punish you, averaging 180 yards a contest. On the other side, though, Jarrell Wembley just broke out for 130 yards for SFA. This game may simply come down to which rushing attack imposes its will, and whether SFA has cleaned up the mistakes that haunted them early, mistakes that haunted them against Abilene Christian and the ghosts of last season. If they don't correct those, the ghosts of Lake Charles from last year could come knocking again. And that is your warm map for September 27th, week 5 already of the college football season. From the FCS battles with playoff stakes to century-old classics at the Cotton Bowl, we got some heated JUCO clashes. No shortage of drama this week. It is going to be fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Cut Block Podcast. I'll be back with another episode soon, bringing you more unfiltered truth and fearless football talk. Until then, stay safe. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Just like my takes.
Thank you for listening to the Cut Block Podcast with Cory Hogue. Remember, the cut block might be legal, but that doesn't make it right. Just like Cory Hogue's takes.